use the grid to enable snapping. So way snapping works is I'm going to maximize this viewport, and you'll see this magnetic icon right here that's called Snaps Toggle. Now if I turn that on, you won't see any difference until you move around the viewport, and you'll see that there's this little widget that shows around. Now I want to move. Now if I select something right now, you'll see that I actually get this circular icon. So the different transformations you can do is move, rotate, and scale. Move's the one that we want for this. So I move, and I have my snaps toggle, which is your snap on. And then if I start to move around and move this up and down, you'll see I can kind of move this Lego piece around. And you'll notice that one thing happens with it is the snap isn't proper and clean. So if I hit Control Z and undo this, and I hit anywhere on the object other than this move widget, I can relocate the piece. So this is kind of a 3D Max bug, and you'll find that there's bugs. This is just what happens with the high-end stuff. If I hold my left mouse button over the arrow and I go to move it, you'll see that the zoom is off. Hit Control Z, or I can hit undo. Now let's try that again, and this time I'm going to hold anywhere else, hold down left mouse button and move it. Now I get perfect registration, and you'll see that that perfectly snaps. So you need to do that for your entire project, so make sure you get snapping down before anything else. Likewise with rotation, let's move to the top view, so I will maximize viewports, hit the top, and then come back. Now if I select a top piece and I hit rotate, now right now if I do any rotation, it's completely random. It doesn't. So if I want to do something that's locked in, I can hit the snap here. So once again, remember move, snap move, rotate, snap rotate. And I can come in and rotate this, and now you'll see it's doing it on 5 degrees. The one thing you can always do is if you look down below, down here, you'll see that there's a number, and as I rotate, it adjusts that number. So if you don't like what you've done, you can always come in and change the number there to update it. So for example, I'll turn snapping off and go to rotate, and you can see this at 43.5. I can change this to -90, hit enter, and now I have a clean registration and a snap for it. So let's undo that and turn off this and go back to move, and let's look at some other things that we can do. So let's go back to the front view again, and what I'm going to do here is just simply copy. Now there's a couple different ways you can copy. You can go up, select an item, and you can do edit, clone, which is Control V, which would be copy. So it's slightly different, and I'll explain in a minute. So if you do clone, you're going to have different options of what you want to do. For the time being, we want to use the clone copy. What a clone copy does is it'll create a completely original new version of this item that we're cloning. If you use instance, what will happen is it's going to basically have a linked version. The same with reference, so any change you make to one will update in the other ones. So these are used when you're working with a large group of people, or you're doing something where you have a lot of objects and you want to update them. We don't want to do that. We want everyone to be individual, so we're going to use copy. So hit OK, and it doesn't look like anything changed, but you'll see that all of a sudden the piece you had is unselected. However, if I come in and I go to move this, voila, there's our new piece. So when you quote-unquote paste, it pastes exactly where the previous piece was. Now, the easier way to do this, and they call this shift drag, is you basically make sure you have the move, even though you can do this with the rotate. Hold down the shift key, grab anywhere besides the widget, and move, and you can drag off a copy. And then I'll do this one more time just to show you, and drag off the copy and hit OK. So that's called shift drag. So I'm holding down the shift and I'm pulling off a copy and getting it to move. So that's how I get that to work. Okay, so once I get a bunch of pieces together, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to actually group them when I actually make my model. So if I select a bunch of items, and now you can see there's actually 3 groups selected already. Each one of these Lego pieces is actually its own group already. And the reason I did that is this is actually 2 separate pieces. So if I go up to group and I ungroup this, which I don't recommend you do, but if you were curious, you see if I take that and I pop it apart, so you can see that this is actually made out of 2 pieces. Every Lego piece is actually made out of 2 pieces. And you see how that's disappeared? That's because I moved it with Snap-on in the perspective viewport. So whenever you move stuff, you want to use these different viewports to move it, but use the perspective as an update. So if I come in here and move this down, now you can see kind of what this looks like. So if I go to select 3 pieces, like I have here, 1, 2, 3, a border selected, and you'll look, it actually says there's 4 entities selected because this is a group right here, this is a group, and then this one I accidentally ungrouped. So I'm just going to undo, but the other option you can do is select them, both the items, and hit group. Problem with that is the point as where the snapping is going to get relocated, so it's easier just to do a undo, 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 do a couple more undos. And I think that should be it. Yeah, okay, so now we have them selected. So if I go and I do group, and I'll call this final model. Now this isn't, but just to give you the idea, hit OK. And all of a sudden now this works as a unit. So this is what you want to do with your final object, and this might not seem necessarily that handy right now, but when we're doing later projects, you're going to have hundreds of pieces and you're going to want to group things so that different things are organized. So that's how you'll create your final model. And then to keep track of things, you'll actually use layers. And the layer manager icon is here, or you can go under tools and you can go to manage layers. And this is kind of a little non-intuitive, but what you get is you get a layer, and here's actually a list of all the different groups and pieces that exist currently in the scene. Now if I select the final model, ideally I want to move that to its own layer. So if I hit this icon, it creates a new layer, and if I click that once, I'm going to call this final. And because I had these pieces already selected, if I hide and turn it on and off, you can see I can hide those pieces, or I can hide the other ones. Now I actually want to take all the original pieces and put them on their own layer. So I'll go back to the first, and if I want to move everything, let's hide the stuff that's on the final just so we can see. Okay, so now I'm on the default layer, and this is what's left, are the other Lego pieces. So if I select all these, which I can just do edit, select all, Control A. If I have these selected and I create a new layer, you'll see that all of a sudden there's nothing on this layer and everything has been added to this new layer called layer 1. So I'm going to change this name to original pieces. And now there's one thing that's off, because currently we have one original piece right here that's part of this group. So if I want to change this group, I can do group, and I can do a couple things. I can do open, and what that does is it turns it pink, and that means I can select individual items inside that group. I got snapping on, so it's popping around everywhere. Let me turn snapping off real quick to show you. So you see I can kind of move this around. The other thing I can do with this is I can do in the groups, and I can detach, and now that's its own piece. So let's get that lined up properly. Let's do that again. So I went and I selected a group, and I went open, which basically doesn't break it apart but needs me to edit inside of it. I selected one piece, group, detach. Now it's its own piece. You'll see this part is still pink, so then I want to do group, close, and now I have an object with 2 pieces in it right here, and then I have the individual part. Okay, so if I select the original piece that should be actually on the original layer, I highlight it, go down to original, And then I can basically use plus, which says add selected objects to highlight a layer. So this is the highlight a layer, hit plus, and now when I do hide, you'll see that basically all the original pieces disappear, and then my final model, which will obviously be more pieces than that, is on this area. So the next thing we want to do is we want to basically change the colors of the pieces, which people like to do a lot. It's pretty easy. You select any object, and you'll see that there's already a little link here. This isn't the way we'll do proper color down the road, but for right now. And you select it, and you'll see there's a swatch, and you can choose any color you want. If for some reason you want another to be the same color, you can come in, and if you go into add custom colors, there's an eyedropper. So you can actually come in there and select that color. You can also save swatches as well. Add color. Okay, and now we have a custom color here, and now we can assign that to this one. Come back over here, add this custom color here as well, and then hit OK. And so you can change the different colors, and that's up to you. The ones that you want to be aware of and you want to avoid is you don't want to do select all. Let me just show you. You don't want to do pure black in any CG environment, and the reason is you lose all the shadows, so it becomes a visual issue. So rather than doing it pure black, you would want to do something. You go into custom color, and you could try to get something. I'll turn the saturation always off on this and make the value and make something that what I guess people call like 75% gray. So you see it's dark, but it's not completely dark. And I can add that color, close this out, and assign that. And now you can actually see that there's some darker spots and some lighter spots. Likewise, if I go back and I change this, if I do white and I hit OK, now this is rendering it out, and this is actually showing gray, but you can have an error where everything is white, so you run into the same issue that you generally, rather than doing white, you want to do a gray. Because of the way this is defaulting in light, it looks different. It's basically the way that the computer is calculating the shading. So we'll look at this a little later, but you can see there's with almost no shading on, you can see how it gets flat as opposed to realistic. So that's something we'll look at down the road. So once you get everything grouped, separated, you get your colors changed, then you want to save your file. So then do save as. And the convention that I'd like everyone to use is your last name and then the assignment number. So A01, and I'll hit save. Now that's done, and now I want to go to the Dropbox. And the way that this works is you go back up to content folder. Oh, I might have to relog on. Okay, there we go. So you go back to Angel, hit content, go to assignment Dropbox. And I already have Java installed, so this is going to help me out a little. You might have to adjust it. Okay, you see the little Java. If not, you have to download Java and install it. I have a little bit of information on that. And what this is this is a little utility that uploads it and submits it as homework. So I need to go find it. Now right now I'm at the C drive and I want to go to the D drive, so I changed the folder. Icon doesn't necessarily make sense for that, but I hit that and now I can choose the D. And you can see here's our folder, and go in and go in again. So I'm double clicking, and here's my Snyder A01. And what I want to do is I want to upload this. And you also see that this is less than 1 megabyte. Try to keep these under 20 megabytes. You don't want to copy things over and over and over and over. Just try to keep them small. But what I'll do is this is the upload icon. And what you want to do is you want to watch the little console window here. I hit this, and what it says, upload file, Snyder 2, and then this is where it uploads it where I can access it. It transmits all these items. It took 0 seconds. Transfer succeeded. That's what you want to see. If you don't see transfer succeeded, there's a problem. Now, if I go to upload this again, I get an error that says unable to upload one or more files, and that's because you can only have one instance of a file name. So if you want to upload this again, you have to change the name and then re-upload it. So that's it